I'd been at CBS already for about 5 years by the time he approached me. And he we'd had our jollies together. He said, "There you are, the guy. You're now working in the news division. It was your Parliament commercials that used to be on the Doug Edwards News Show." But any case, he said he came over of a Sunday afternoon, as I remember it. And Don was, I don't know if he's told you this or not, but he was in trouble himself at that time because he had been fired off the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. I didn't realize he'd been fired, but he had been fired, and because he wasn't serious enough. And he was in a small room trying to come up with a notion that would be interesting to CBS News, and he came up with an unnamed magazine show, still unnamed magazine show, and it was going to be Harry Reasoner who was going to be the sole anchor. And he came in and told me that Harry was still going to be, in effect, the top banana, but they needed somebody who would wear the black hat to Harry Reasoner's white hat. And I said, I can understand that. Anyway, the way he told it, once you hear Hewitt in full cry, he can be very persuasive. And so he said, we want to do a pilot, which is in effect put together a sample hour. So Harry and I did it, and all of a sudden we were on the air in, I guess it was September of 1968. And on the first broadcast was my profile of interviews with, and the piece in the hotel room of Richard Nixon. And as I remember, Harry had done the same thing with Hewitt Humphrey, and I believe that was also on the first broadcast, or if not the first, the second. Essentially the same concept, yeah. What happened was that Harry and I were an interesting contrast. We were very good friends, and an interesting contrast. And of course, he liked to do essays and expositions, and I liked to do tough interviews and investigations. So we made an interesting team. But the character of 60 Minutes obviously had to develop through the years. And only a couple of years, I guess it was certainly not maybe 2 full years, as I remember, Reasoner, who was the next in line for the Cronkite show, for the Cronkite News, when Walter decided to quit or get hit by a truck, showed no desire to quit nor intention of getting hit by a truck. So Harry took off for ABC, and Morley Safer came in his place. And it wasn't quite the same mix that Harry and I had been, and there was a little difficulty getting that straightened around. But basically, we were given enough time. We were on Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock, opposite the Tuesday night movies on NBC, and I believe it was Marcus Welby or something like that on ABC. So nobody was watching us. We had some years in which to find our way and to develop the broadcast. And after Harry left, Hewitt and I said, what in the world are we, why are people going to tune in? I thought I was going to be able to get back to doing interviews, not for a minute or two, but for, let's say, 15 or 18 minutes. We were, in the back of our head was the talk about investigations, which later became the hallmark. They didn't become the hallmark of 60 Minutes until after Harry left, and we were looking for something special. And it was my bent, and we hired producers who had the same bent. A fellow by the name of Barry Lando, woman name of Marion Golden, a fellow by the name of Norman Gorin. And we really did, on a regular basis, investigations, hidden cameras, ambush interviews, a lot of stuff that had never been seen before. on television. The kind of thing that only television can do, because it was live on tape. It was on tape, obviously. Although some of them, no, it was on tape, or on film back then. And it was a success d'estime immediately. I mean, people just knew that something special was going on. It didn't get popular, I am persuaded, until the Yom Kippur War, the '73 war, when there was the gas shortage and people couldn't get the gasoline to travel to Grandma's house on Sunday afternoon, evening. They had to stay home. They began to fiddle around with their dials, and there we were. And by that time, we had worked out who we were, and Watergate was in full swing, and there was no night beat. There was no night line then. There were no opportunities, believe it or not, back then, to do long interviews, to do searching interviews. Ted Koppel was a young reporter off in Saigon someplace or whatever, and we had an opportunity to really own some of the television side of that story. And because I had a certain familiarity with some of the characters in Watergate, John Ehrlichman and Haldeman and Nixon, Charlie Colson, and we really were able to do that as well as investigations.